Every single medicine we rely on today had to go through this incredibly rigorous testing process. But what makes that process safe? What makes it trustworthy? Well, today we're diving into the global standard that makes it all possible. It's called Good Clinical Practice, or GCP for short. Think of it as the essential rulebook that protects people while pushing science forward. And really, this is the question at the heart of it all. We absolutely need new treatments, but the volunteers who step up to make that research happen, well, they're not just subjects, they're partners in discovery. So the real challenge is, how do you design research that is both totally groundbreaking and fundamentally safe for every single person involved? Answering that question means we have to face a basic tension. You see, every clinical trial is this delicate balancing act between the incredible promise of a new cure and the potential risks for the people who participate. Yeah, this is the tightrope that every researcher has to walk. On one side, you've got the chance for a massive breakthrough, but on the other, you have this absolute non-negotiable duty to protect the rights, the safety, and the well-being of every participant. Getting that balance right, that's everything. So, to manage this delicate balance consistently, not just in one lab, but all across the globe, the world needed a shared set of rules. And that solution, that international standard, is what we call good clinical practice. The easiest way to think about GCP is like a universal building code, but for clinical trials. It's a set of standards that everyone around the world has agreed on, and it makes sure that research is conducted with total integrity no matter where it's happening. It's all about quality, ethics, and science working hand in hand. And this global standard really boils down to two main goals. The first one is the most important, and it's totally non-negotiable. Protect the people in the trial, period. Their safety and rights always come first. The second goal is to make sure the data is rock solid and trustworthy. Because if the data isn't reliable, then the participants' contributions, their time, and their risk were all for nothing. Now, GCP isn't just one single document. There are a couple of key versions. You've got the ICH guideline, which is the super detailed standard used for getting new drugs approved by big regulators like the FDA. Then you have the WHO's guidance, which is a bit more flexible. It helps adapt these core principles so they can work effectively in all sorts of different places, like a rural clinic that might not have a ton of resources. So where did all these rules even come from? Well, they weren't just made up. They all stand on a solid foundation of three core ethical principles that were laid out in a really important document called the Belmont Report. Okay, pillar number one is respect for persons. This just means we have to recognize that participants are individuals who can and should make their own decisions. In the real world, this is the principle that gives us informed consent. That's the whole process of making sure people get all the information, the good and the bad, so they can decide for themselves if a trial is right for them. Next up, pillar number two, beneficence. This is your classic risk versus benefit analysis. The research has to be designed to do the most possible good while doing the least possible harm. So the potential benefits to science and society have to clearly outweigh any risks to the people in the study. And the third pillar is justice. This one is all about fairness. It makes us ask, who is taking on the risks of this research and who is going to get its benefits? It's there to make sure that certain groups aren't unfairly burdened with risking research or, on the flip side, left out from its potential advantages. All right, so with those ethical pillars as our foundation, let's take a look at how they're actually put into practice. Every single clinical trial follows a really carefully managed four-stage journey. Every trial follows this logical path, right? It all starts with super careful planning, where the study is designed and gets approval from an ethics committee. Then comes initiation. That's the setup phase. After that is the actual conduct of the research. And finally, you have closure, which is where the study is formally wrapped up and the results are shared. So stage one, planning. This is where the entire blueprint for the research gets created. The most important document here is called the protocol. It defines everything from the study's main goal to every tiny procedure. It's the trial's master plan, and you don't deviate from it. And this highlights probably the most critical rule of all. No study can ever begin without getting the green light from an independent ethics committee first. This group, sometimes called an IRB, is like the ultimate guardian for participants. It's a hard stop, a non-negotiable checkpoint. Once you get that green light, the trial moves into the initiation stage. This is all the setup work, training the staff, prepping the clinics, and just making sure every single piece is perfectly in place before the very first volunteer even walks through the door. It makes sure the study kicks off smoothly and, most importantly, safely. Stage 3, conduct, is when the research goes live. This is where the team puts the protocol into action, enrolling participants, giving out treatments, collecting data, and, this is key, constantly monitoring everyone's safety to catch any unexpected issues right away. And finally, we get to closure. Now, this isn't just about yelling, "Stop." It's a whole formal process. You've got to notify the authorities, you have to archive all the key documents for future reference, and, critically, you share the results with both the participants and the wider scientific community. It even includes thinking about things like continued care for the participants after the study ends. So why does having a single global standard for all of this matter so much? Well, the impact goes way, way beyond just one trial. Because science is a global effort, right? GCP makes sure that a trial happening in a place with fewer resources is held to the exact same high ethical and scientific bar as one in a wealthy country. This protects every participant equally, and it means the data that comes out of that study can be trusted and used by anyone, anywhere in the world. Ultimately, GCP isn't just a set of stiff rules. It's really a framework that helps us do better, more inclusive science. It pushes researchers to be more ethical, more creative, and more adaptive, so that studies can safely answer the health questions that really matter to all kinds of different communities around the globe. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. Having a great rulebook is one thing, but how do we make absolutely sure that it's being followed in every lab, in every clinic, in every corner of the world, every single time? Making sure that commitment never, ever wavers, well, that's the ongoing challenge for all of us.